Little Nightmares 2 contains a bunch of hints as to what might be going on in this dark and creepy world. Just like the first game, many fans like myself have gone through the game looking for every little bit of information that we can to try and piece together what's happening. If you haven't already played the first game, the DLC, and the second game, I would recommend that you play those first, as this video is going to contain major spoilers for all three. Now, if you've already played those games or if you don't care about spoilers, these are 10 things you might have missed in Little Nightmares 2. Starting the list off at number 10 is Mono's shadow. At the end of the second game, it is heavily implied that Mono is the Thin Man, or that he replaces the Thin Man. Either way, Mono is now the Thin Man. But if you actually look throughout the game, there are a bunch of hints to this. Even before you get to the ending, there are a bunch of hints to this scattered throughout the game. The most obvious one is Mono's shadow. When Six has been taken to the TV realm and Mono is pursuing her, when he enters the TV, you can clearly see it cast a shadow across the room. If you look closely, you can see that it very, very closely resembles the Thin Man. It has the same posture, it has the same stance, and it has the same thin, creepy-like quality. Almost like the Thin Man is Mono's shadow. Well, what's interesting about this one is this isn't even the first time the developers have done this. In the second DLC of the first game, when the gnomes are hanging around the fire, you can see the same thing. They cast their shadows around the room, and you can clearly see that the shadows are of children. This was a pretty major hint, maybe even a spoiler, but most people missed it because it was so subtle. So it's very interesting how in both games, people's shadows reflect their true selves, and I do think that this is a theme that is heavily present in both games. At number 9, we have the TV song. In the school section, there is a part where a number of bully kids are playing in the corridor. Now, you can hear them sing a song that might sound vaguely familiar. This is the same song that was present in the first game when Six uses the TV to distract Roger. What's really interesting about this one is that Roger really seems to enjoy the song or enjoy the television program, which could be a link to the second game, knowing how the residents of the city react to the television signal. Maybe Roger used to watch TV just like these people did, or maybe Roger knows the person in the TV. We do know that people have been taken inside the TV realm just like Six was, so maybe Roger knew this person before she was taken. Either way, these are just theories, but it's very interesting that this song is present in both games, and if you listen closely in the later parts of the second game, some of the TVs actually play different songs, and this is one of them. At number 8, we have the masks. In the hospital section, there is a room that appears to be a workshop that has a number of masks on the walls. Now, the most obvious thing here is that a lot of them do look like the guests from the first game, which is very interesting because most people, myself included, just assumed that the guests in the first game were humans in some sort of trance. But now it looks like maybe these humans were being made as well. But what's really interesting, if you look at the top mask, this one here, you can see that this is clearly Roger's face. Now, this has a number of implications. Perhaps it's true that Roger was made, which was a theory of mine from the first game, but maybe there's more than one Roger. Maybe this is Roger's mask and this is a prequel. The secret ending clearly seems to hint at that, but either way, this is definitely Roger. It could just be a callback to the first game, a little hint or an Easter egg, but this is definitely Roger's mask. And now if you look at the top of the part of the mask, you can see that it is drooping down just like it is on his head, where you can't actually see his eyes because the mask is slipping down. At number 7, we have the giant moth creature. I'm calling this one a giant moth creature because I'm not 100% decided what this is yet. In the secret room on the rooftop where you find one of the glitching kids, there are a number of cages that seem to hold creatures. They hold rats and what appears to be some small birds. At first I thought they were owls, but the second time I came back to this room I actually had a look. You can see that this one here has multiple legs just like a moth. But what's really interesting about this is that this is far too big to be a moth and the face clearly looks like some form of bird. Is it a hybrid? Is it a twisted version of a moth? Who knows, but this is clearly something that is out of the ordinary. This is not something you would find in the real world, and I don't know why it's here. What's more interesting about this as well, if you also listen closely, it appears to make bird noises. So why does it have insect feet? It's a very strange creature, and I'm sure that it's not here by accident. I do have a theory about how this could be a whippoorwill, although I'm going to keep this for another video because that's a whole other theory in itself. At number 6, we have this mysterious eye package. Now, to find this, you have to open this suitcase. This has clearly been hidden by the developers, and I know that a lot of players won't find this, but you have to open the suitcase, and when you do, you see this mysterious package with an eye on both sides. Now, if you throw this package, you can hear something jingling around inside, which sounds like porcelain. This could be a reference to the porcelain children of this game, or it could be a reference to the porcelain dolls in the first game, which were the collectible 6 had to find, which contains some sort of dark magic or dark essence. Now, if you take this at face value, this doesn't seem to be that big of a secret, but then there is also a mailbox that seems to be very similar in size with an eye painted on the front of it. These are both in the same area, and I desperately tried to figure out if this was some sort of puzzle, similar to the books in the first game that opened the secret room. I really tried to figure out if these were some sort of secret or a puzzle, but I couldn't figure it out. If you have figured it out, let me know down in the comments below, but either way, this is definitely something the developers put in the game. It's not there by accident, and it must mean something. At number 5, we have the dead dinner lady. Now, I didn't see this until my second playthrough of the game. At the part of the school where you have to climb up these trays, if you actually move them and go into the door on the left, you can see a freezer room and a dead dinner lady covered in food. This does support my theory that this school used to be normal and had normal human occupants here, as this person clearly seems to be human. There are a number of dead humans in this game, and so this world clearly had people in it at one point, but for some reason it doesn't anymore. This dinner lady is just yet another one of the victims of whatever happened to this world. What's really interesting is how she's just left here covered in food that the porcelain children don't need. Who killed her? Was it the teacher? Was it the porcelain children? Did she kill herself? Unlikely, but who knows? She's here, and this could just be another piece of the puzzle to figure out what is going on in this world. At number 4, we have the lollipops in the shop. Now, if you haven't seen the comics, I'm going to spoil the comics here. In the comics, you see the chubby kid, as people are calling him, as he survives the school. He uses the lollipop to smash a few of the porcelain dolls, which could explain why some of the porcelain children in the second game have half missing heads. I assumed it was the teacher that did this. It might have been the chubby kid. But you can see where he got his lollipops from. He got them from this toy shop. There's a number of them on display here, and I do think this is a direct reference to him. Now, this isn't the only thing we see in this shop. There are a number of creepy clues here. We have the chess pieces, which are a direct reference to the school, where we have the full chess set at the school. Next to those, we have a bunch of dolls that look like they're wearing white masks, which are very reminiscent of the guests in the first game. But we also have number 3, which is the doll with the eye. Now, this doll might not seem that significant to you, but it clearly has some significance because it appears in both games. Well, kind of. Now, this doll looks a lot like the humans in this world who have been watching the TVs, or the viewers as some people call them. They have very twisted faces that seem to be collapsing in on themselves, and this doll's face clearly has that shape too, except this one has an eye in the middle of it. But if you go back to the first game in Roger's workshop, where Roger has a bunch of dolls too, you can see that he has one of these except without the eye. You can find a couple more of these throughout the moor as well. So these dolls that were maybe made in this workshop have been finding their way to the moor, except this one has an eye in it and the ones in the moor don't. This could support the theory that this is still a sequel and not a prequel like many people have been theorizing. At number 2, we have the frog and the key. Now, this one is a bit of an interesting one, and I do think that there are potentially multiple interpretations of what's going on here, but I'm going to give you my interpretation of what I think is going on with this frog and this key. Now, when Six and Mono are escaping the school, you come out to this yard for a little bit, and you can see one singular porcelain doll who is jabbing a key into the back of a frog. Now, at first, this just seems like the kid's being naughty. It's not the naughtiest thing we've seen these children do, and it looks like she's just randomly jamming a key into the back for almost no reason. And after all, we did see another kid doing something similar to a frog in the middle of the school earlier, and we saw that the teacher had a number of frogs that we assumed are just being dissected like you would expect in a normal school. However, I think there's more going on with this frog and the key than meets the eye. This is the key that you specifically need to progress the game, and this girl is clearly jabbing it in and trying to twist it around. Why, what's she trying to do here? If you go back to the toy shop from earlier, you can see one of the mechanical toys being built. You can see one of the mechanical toys that hasn't been quite finished yet, and it has a clockwork key in its back. This is a very typical mechanism of early toys before electronics and batteries became very common. Clockwork toys used to feature keys in the back that you would wind up to make your toy come to life. I think that this girl is trying to do the same thing with this frog. She's putting a key in its back and trying to turn it around because she wants the frog to come back to life. She has some clear understanding that that is possible in this world, but she just doesn't quite understand how to bring it to life like the Doctor seems to with the mannequins. Coming in at number 1, we have the creepy bathtub with tentacles. Now, this is another secret room that you can find in the hospital, and this one is very, very interesting. There seems to be a padded cell with a lone person in a bathtub which seems to be covered in some form of tentacles. It could be giant intestines of some creature, but they're yellow and odd, and they definitely look tentacle in nature. Now, what's really, really interesting about this one is that this is a padded cell. When mental health wasn't as understood as it is now, people were often thrown into asylums with padded cells so they couldn't do any damage to themselves. Now, what's really interesting in this world is that many people appear to be committing suicide, and this could absolutely be a reference to that. But what's really interesting is if you look past the surface, a padded cell, which we can equate to madness, and tentacles, which we can equate to Lovecraftian monsters, this room is either clearly a massive clue as to what's going on in this world, or it's just a throwaway Easter egg towards Lovecraftian culture. Maybe the developers took Lovecraftian elements into their stories and they're paying homage to Lovecraft, or maybe this is a real big hint as to what is going on in this world, which I do have another theory video coming as how this world might actually be under the effects of an elder god. However, that's a theory for another day. These have been 10 things that you might have missed in Little Nightmares 2. Let me know if you found any more down in the comments below. If I spot any more, I might do another video. So if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like this video, comment down below and subscribe. All of those things help out the channel and help out the algorithm. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you next time.